It will be difficult for the modern audience to understand this invitation Jesus made today. Come to me, all you who are burdened and overlabored, and I will give you rest. Why it will be difficult for us to understand this statement is simply because we are not a direct Jewish audience Jesus was addressing. The direct Jewish audience Jesus was addressing came from the background of religious intolerance, a very exacting religion, a religion where it is unlawful to cook on a Sabbath day, a religion where it is unlawful to do good on a Sabbath day, to cure the sick, to tell a sick man to carry his pallet and go home. A religion where if a woman is caught in adultery, the law requires the woman to be stoned to death. A religion where Jesus needed to form a whip from his cord and drive away men who have turned the temple into a den of robbers. A religion where John the Baptist, who was the forerunner of Jesus, addressed the Pharisees and the scribes as brood of vipers. It was a terrible environment. It was a religion that was designed to oppress rather than to save. It was a religion that became a burden upon people. It was from that background that Jesus was telling his audience, come to me, all you who are troubled and burdened. Come, I will give you rest. And he told them, my yoke is easy and my burden light. If we understand the first statement Jesus made when he began his public ministry, when he said, the Spirit of God is upon me. He has anointed me to bring good news to the poor, to set the captives free. Then we understand the invitation Jesus is giving to us today. The point is that religion should never be a burden for anybody. And that was the point of conflict Jesus kept having with the Pharisees and the scribes. Because he cured a man who was a paralytic, told him, rise, carry your load bag, carry your burdens and go home. The Pharisees had issue. Why would this man carry his pallet and go home? Why would this man hail somebody on a Sabbath day? They saw his apostles eating ears of corn and they quarreled because they were doing it on a Sabbath day. So, Jesus was coming into serious conflict with these people because they felt Jesus was not living up to the demands of the law. But Jesus was changing their idea of religion and creating a new idea of religion. And that new idea of religion is a religion where the needs or concerns of man should be given premier consideration or utmost importance. That was the new religion Jesus was calling our attention. And I believe Jesus succeeded because so many people followed him. But the irony of life is that almost where Jesus called us away from is where we are going back today. That is the irony of history. That where Jesus had serious issue with religious leaders and where he fought so hard to bring us and save us is where we are going back. We live in a world today where so many people have lost their common sense because maybe a particular man of God told them this or that. From time to time, we hear stories of women who die during childbirth. The reasons are not far-fetched. A certain woman, for instance, went to antenatal. And during the antenatal, the doctor discovered that the child in the womb was too heavy to be delivered through natural process. And he told the woman, this child will be delivered through CS. So get ready. The baby size is too much. The woman went to her pastor, and the pastor told her, don't mind the doctor. You are going to deliver like Hebrew women. Don't mind the doctor. My God will prove his mighty power in your life. Of course, God will prove, no doubt. The day of labor came, the woman entered the theater. 2 hours, she was still pushing. 3 hours, she was still pushing. At a point, she requested her pastor to come to the theater. The pastor came and was casting and biting. The doctor just kept somewhere, stood somewhere, observing them. After doing everything, the pastor left. The woman pushed for another 2 hours without success, until eventually the woman became too weak. The child in the womb had already died. The child died, the woman died eventually. This is where Jesus is putting us away from. Religion should not take our common sense away. It should not be a burden. He's saying, my own yoke is easy. Come to me. If Jesus had wanted to teach us an idea of faith or religion that doesn't make sense, he would have yielded to the temptation, or the temptation the devil brought to him while in the desert, when he told him, jump from this pinnacle, and God will send his angel to pick you, so I will not break any of your bones. But Jesus said, do not put the Lord that God to test. We still live in a world where some church people believe that blood transfusion is sinful. There are people who believe that when somebody is sick, that to get somebody's blood and transfuse it into that other person is sinful. Many people have died because of that. We live in a world where some ministers of God, myself inclusive, have produced anointing oil, holy water, and name them, and give to people who are sick to anoint and drink. Why, when I become sick, maybe I will fly outside the country and take care of myself and give you that. Jesus is doing something very significant today. Come to me, all who are worried and burdened, and I will give you rest. So the irony of history is going back to where Jesus is bringing us away from. And then where religion has become a burden, where religion has become a limiting factor, to a place where religion becomes a freedom and a salvation to all of us. I will continue to say it. Any religion that makes things difficult for man is unworthy of man. Any religion that makes things difficult for man is unworthy of man. So let us not allow religion to create a yoke, a burden that will be too difficult for us. A story was told of a pastor who declared 1 month dry fasting for his church members. 6 to 6. He will not take anything. And his church members were fasting. And then within that period, the pastor was spotted as a guest to a couple who were having their wedding. And then come and see the pastor's table. All manner of delicacies, assorted drinks. The pastor was surrounded by royal abundance. He was feasting, whining, and drinking. And his people were fasting. Jesus is pulling us away from that kind of yoke and that kind of religion that makes things difficult for us. I have continued to say it today. Faith, religion or faith is not against medicine. It is not against new medical intervention. It is not against it. So any faith that tells you not to explore medical alternative to your case, to your situation, should be considered suspect. Should be considered suspect. But many times, many of us consider going to hospital when you are sick as something that is against faith. From time to time, people come to me with their medication to bless. I love it. I see it as faith and medicine working together. But when you bring only olive oil and water and you tell me, Father, I don't know what is paining me in my head, just bless this oil for me. And I will ask, have you gone to hospital? Father, just bless this oil for me. That's a big problem. That It's a big problem. I have not forgotten. I think I shared it with you. The time I had a toothache, the most painful experience I had in my life, toothache. Something that kept me away from night till the next morning. The moment I entered the doctor's office, consulting room, I told the woman, please remove every single tooth in my mouth. Let me have my peace. The woman said, Father, calm down. I said, calm down what? My mouth was like a hellfire. I said, remove everything. But this woman got a syringe and a little substance and then just injected the substance here. It was as if this gentle breeze from heaven just landed on my mouth and every pain vanished. I'm telling you, no Holy Ghost fire or I cast and bound would have done that magic at that moment. I'm telling you, nothing would have done that magic at that moment. Even in the morning before I left for the hospital, when we were still living here, I was here following the mass because I couldn't sleep. When the mass started, I was even putting my intention at the mass. The burning sensation was even, because there is a medical solution to this. You don't need to call God and disturb God. When there is a medical solution to your problem, it is through God's wisdom and gifts of knowledge that we were able to come about all these things. But many times we find it hard exploring these alternatives. I have to be honest with you. Many of these pastors who are selling their oil and all these things to us, I can tell you that many of them have never applied that oil or whatever to themselves. Many of them have never applied it. When they get sick, they use the money they made from selling the oil to you and fly themselves to outside the country and get proper healing. Jesus is calling us today. Any religion that creates a burden for man is unworthy of man. And that was the primary reason he kept having issue with the Pharisees and the scribes. Why would they condemn Jesus for curing a sick man on the Sabbath day? He will ask them, how many of you will his horse fall into a ditch on a Sabbath day and you will leave it there? They will not talk. He will call them again and ask them, is it right to do good on a Sabbath or to do evil? They will not respond to him. Because Jesus was spoiling business for them. Because the status quo was enriching them. And they wanted it that way. Many times, our ignorance cost us our life on many occasions. People have died a needless death because they believed one nonsense and they lost their life. Please, let us hearken to the invitation Jesus has given us today. And the invitation is this: come away from a religious background that limits your freedom, that denigrates your dignity, your humanity, that tramples on your person, that refuses you to seek healing on a Sabbath day. From time to time, people come to me, and I want to say it. If you're the type that comes to a priest during confession and say, I want to confess that I didn't go to mass because I was sick. How can you come to mass when you are sick? It's not a sin. You can't come to mass when you are sick. Even somebody attending to a sick person, there is no work greater than that. Taking care of a sick person. That is religion in action. That is faith in action. So if you couldn't come to mass because you were sick and you come to confession and regard it as a sin, I will tell you it's not a sin. If you regard it as a sin, then religion becomes that burden we are talking about. That even when you are sick, you must come to mass. If you don't come to mass, that becomes a sin. It becomes a burden. If we insist on that, then we see people who will carry their catheter, carry their drip and everything and fill up this church. Yeah. People will carry their urine catheter, carry everything carry even the hospital bed to come to church, because if you don't come to church, it becomes a sin for you. That is not the idea of religion Jesus wants us to appreciate today. So we really need to get it. I pray in this Mass that this invitation Jesus has given to us today, that all of us will hearken to it. Peace be with you.